my understanding is that, and this is, I think, one of the problems is with the Democratic Party right now is that nobody is saying about President Biden that we want him for president because he's going to give us a vigorous leadership, that he has the energy, that he has the cognitive ability, that he has the vision to inspire Americans. Instead, what they're saying is you got to vote for him, despite all of the defects that are clear to everybody, because if you don't vote for him, somebody worse is going to get in there. And that's what they mean by the word dangerous. I think that the Democratic Party has to offer Americans a better, more positive vision for this country than just do what we say or President Trump is going to, endanger our democracy. We should be able to do more than that. We should be able to inspire people. And I think that's why so many young people and independents are supporting me, because they're tired of the fear tactics. They're tired of being manipulated through orchestrated fear.
Well, let me ask you.
And they want something to inspire them.
Let me ask you, if I may, let me ask you about a specific concern your family's expressed in the past too, which is your controversial views on vaccines and being part of the anti-vaccine movement.
What
in
are
particular.
my views on vaccines?
Well, you've said previously that no vaccine is safe or effective, which is...
I've never said that.
You did say that in a podcast interview in July.
I've never said that.
You did say that. There are quotes, and that recording is there.
You are wrong, and you're making something up.
On Fox News, you said that you still believe in this idea that vaccines can cause autism, which has long been
But now
debunked.
you're changing the subject. What you said wrong.
No, sir, I'm asking about your views on vaccines.
Well, that's why I'm happy to say that my views are that vaccines should be tested like all other medications are tested. They should have placebo-controlled trials prior to licensure. It's the only medical product or medical device that is allowed to get a license without engaging in safety tests.
So you do not believe the statement that no vaccine is safe and effective?
I've
you don't
never
believe
said
that?
that.
According to these reports and the recordings you have in the podcast interview in July.
That's the problem. If you are reading reports about me in the mainstream media, including this network, they're almost all inaccurate. I'm not anti-vax. I've never been anti-vax.
You just spoke before one of the largest anti-vaccine groups in the country a few days ago.
That's not what they call themselves.
That's not what they call themselves, but that's what they advocate for.
You know what? I speak to a lot of people, and I don't agree, and I don't pretend to agree with everything that everybody in the audience says.
Can I ask you?
I can agree. I've said from the beginning, listen, I fought against mercury in fish for 40 years. Nobody called me anti-fish. I like the idea that we have seatbelts in cars. Nobody calls me anti-automobile. I want vaccines that are safe, just like every other medicine, and that are adequately tested. It doesn't mean I'm anti-vaccine. It just means that I'm sensible and have common sense. I think that most Americans, if they understood my views, my real views, rather than the distortions of my views and the mischaracterizations that they hear from the mainstream media, including this network, that they would agree with me.
I'll just say there's evidence of these statements on the record, and people can look it up for themselves. Show me a statement, not evidence of a statement. Let me ask you about... Show me a statement
rather than evidence, what you call evidence of a statement.
Let me ask you more broadly about 2024 and where we are right now, a year away from the date people will cast ballots. We know in their respective parties, Mr. Trump and Mr. Biden are still leading by wide margins, regardless of how high you are polling, right? The latest numbers from Quinnipiac show 64% of Republican and leaning voters supporting Mr. Trump, 77% of Democrats and Dem-leaning voters supporting Mr. Biden. If those numbers do not shift, how do you decide if and when you should end your candidacy?
I have no intention of ending my candidacy. I have an intention to win. I'm way ahead of any independent candidate in history right now, and I intend to win the election.
Robert F. Kennedy.
What are your views on the safety of vaccines just in general?
Well, you have to answer that question one at a time, because each vaccine has different characteristics, and for each one, you have to measure the advisability of the vaccine based upon the efficacy and safety profile of that product, and then the risk of the infectious disease that it's trying to prevent. The problem with most of the vaccines currently, all of the vaccines currently mandated, the 72 doses of 16 vaccines currently mandated for children under the CDC schedule, is that none of them have been properly safety tested. Vaccines are exempt from preclinical trials that do double-blind placebo testing, the kind of testing that we apply to every other medical product. Vaccines are not required to do that testing. So we don't know the risks of any of the vaccines currently mandated for our children. I actually sued the HHS in 2018 because for many years I've been saying that vaccines aren't safety testing, and they've been saying yes, they are. And so I sued them in 2018 after saying, show me a single safety testing, pre-licensure safety testing for any vaccine that is currently mandated for children. And after a year and a half of litigation, HHS admitted that, yes, it had never safety tested any of the vaccines. And because they're not safety tested, we don't know the risk profile. Oh, nobody can say with any kind of scientific certainty whether any of those products are averting more injuries and deaths than they're causing. And there's a lot of indication that many of those products are actually causing more death and injuries than they are preventing. I never knew anybody with a peanut allergy. Why do 5 of my 7 kids have allergies? Not one of these 72 vaccines has ever been tested, never been done. And I said to Fauci, I gave kind of a lecture showing what we knew. I had a PowerPoint. I said, Tony, can you show me one vaccine that has been subject to a safety test? They had brought in from NIH this big tray full of file folders. And he made a show of kind of looking through that at the time. He couldn't find whatever he was looking for. So then he said, he'll send it to you. Well, he never did. So Aaron and I sued him and said, show us one study that's ever been done on pre-licensing safety testing for vaccines. And after a year of stonewalling, they finally gave us a letter and said, we don't have any.